So I'm sharing my screen again. Hope my screen is visible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So as we are discussing, we would actually wanted to understand the client requirements, and according to the client requirements, how do we approach for actually gathering the requirements and what questions we need to ask and all of that. And as part of that discussion, we have discussed two ways. One is um, non-cloud, another one is cloud. Okay, this is a simple question which we can actually understand from client, if whether he is uh, existing websites he is already hosting on cloud. If he is already hosting on cloud, the clients will normally be interested in to use the cloud only, and we will inform the client if actually there are two versions of AEM implementations, and client normally looks at budget cost only. He doesn't actually worry whether it is actually 6.5 or cloud, but he always says, I want the best. He would like to say any future upgrades, maintenance, anything has to be less and the cost will be less, and I want it the best and all. If he doesn't have AEM exposure, we can directly suggest AEM as cloud service. The reason being, it would be a good choice for him in the long run if there is any if we suggest AM 6.5 in future, as part of the latest releases that are being continuously released to the big cloud service. One or other way client wants to have that also as part of next updation and this thing, and he will actually try to understand why I was actually put in the 6.5 if the cloud is already available, right? So that the question before it arises, we should already, at least address that we have AIM as cloud service latest version with a pipeline is automatical deployment, auto scalable, security provided, and authentication. Also, we have separate mechanisms, SSO integrations, and all of that. We think Adobe Experience Manager Cloud Service is the best option. But if a client comes back and then says, I see that that is costly, any other options, then we can actually suggest other subscription based models for sites on the lesser versions like 6.5 and all. But it's up to client before he comes to us itself. He knows how much it costs, and accordingly we can get the data. Okay, so uh, that we can actually have data integration related to um uh, the cloud and non-cloud, where we will tell him if we actually use cloud, we have out of the box multiple implementations which are automatically available. Okay, which are integrations. Okay, that is the uh, advantage. Cloud integrations like analytics, target, campaign, AEP. Okay, AJO, CJI. We would need to tell him that as a solution architect, there are multiple other options in cloud infrastructure apart from the content delivery, out of the box integration for multiple other value driven tools for the digital infrastructure which we are putting up. One is analyzing the user behaviors, another one is targeting the content, then marketing the channels, sending the data to marketing channels, and then capturing the events, preparing a profiling segmentation so that real-time experience updation, and then putting them to a different journeys as part of the real-time hours, and then the journey when it is provided, how they are actually uh, performing. Okay, So these are all things we can actually have as part of telling the in client that the selection of Adobe version, how it is beneficial if we select Adobe Experience Manager as cloud service. Uh, One is scalable security as well as performance management and out of the box integrations for all the uh, um, value driven solutions from the experience cloud. Okay. But client insists that he is already in a previous versions and he is not interested to move to AM as cloud service immediately. And then he requests us any other options. Then we would say the latest one AM as 6.5. Uh, but we should caution the client that the support for the 6.5 API, once we are actually moved to the 5 years down the line, might not be available. Okay, that caution we need to tell the client that if there is any problem to move to the cloud immediately, but we can actually have it on AEM 6.5 for till the time it is not deprecated, and we will have the corresponding help from the Adobe. And since the help is available, we can have. But later on, we anyhow have to move to the latest version. That's the thing which we need to inform. Okay. So one is two things. If he is already part of different versions and then wants to upgrade or migrate, we will actually have an understanding that he knows about AEM, and we are actually trying to help in the migrations or upgradations into the newer versions. And we'll always suggest AEM as cloud service being the latest version that is helpful for having corresponding architectural growth or scalability, any integrations are not available. But if he has certain limitations that he wants to go at AMS cloud later part, we can suggest 6.5 migration, where the migration steps for 6.5 below to 6.5 and AMS cloud service are little different because the archetype is different and the code and the content packages division is different. So mutability, immutability will be different, and that is what we need to consider while estimating the development effort. Okay. And yeah, so first thing is identifying cloud or non-cloud. Okay. And then once we identify the cloud or non-cloud, first we need to understand what is client is actually asking. Okay. Let's take one brand, Lexus. Okay. Lexus is one of the Toyota brand, okay, in US, where they would like to have website uh, which displays Lexus brand is like at least 30 years old in North America. So all the 30 years models and all the 30-year models, different variations, okay, like color variation or specifications, like you'll have VX, ZX, SX, sign of each vehicle has multiple 4 5 variations, right? Each variation, and in the each variation number of color options. Okay, how many levels of the content, like one is year, okay, and how many different models, and for each model how many different variations. Like if you Toyota, there is Toyota Innova, and Toyota Innova also there is like three models: VX, ZX, SX. So basically, 1992 Toyota model, sorry, Innova model is different from 1993 Innova model. So it will be like uh, year wise we have a model, and that model have again variations vx, sx, zx, and in the variations again you'll have multiple colors like red, black, um, maroon, all these colors. And then each color variation, how you wanted to see that, how it looks. So you'll have different images, different videos of those automobiles, which are actually displaying as an experience, right? So this many data they wanted to make it available on a website, so that anyone who is interested in any Lexus brand, he can actually come to the website, check for different models, check for different uh, interiors, all of that. If you see any website which is actually having automobile brand, you can see that they are all actually providing multiple images, where each image will show 360 degrees view of the vehicle, or interior view, exterior view, and then each specific part inside the car externally. All of that are actually assets. They are all will be part of the website, which will need to be displayed to the user. So client would say, I have almost like 30 years of uh, at least 20 different models of vehicles, and all of them have, each model has at least 4 or 5 variations, and each variation has at least 6 colors available. And I wanted to display all of these as an experience on the website, so that whoever is coming can actually see that, and can actually get the understanding of my offerings from the brand, and they can actually try to select any of the model, and can actually put an order for that, and we will receive the order. And then we'll call back the user after receiving the lead, and we will actually offline manage the purchasing process. Okay. The scope of the AEM is to have the experience available for the live users who is coming to search for the website, to see the corresponding data and experiences before actually they making a decision of purchasing a car. Okay. So this kind of is the requirement. Okay. And as a question, as an architect, what should we first will decide whether he's actually interested for cloud or non-cloud. Okay, let's say he is saying, yeah, cloud is better because it's latest, I can have all of them. Then for cloud, the sizing aspects will be not needed. Okay. So what is sizing aspects? Okay, because we need to ask the client which country he is actually trying to serve. Okay. Okay. So Adobe provides a recommendation of what could be sizing of each instances which we are providing for the client as part of implementation. So sizing means hardware size, JVM size, heap memory size, disk space size. So there are multiple things which we want to provide for the AEM instance, and it should have fail-safe, taken care, system resources, scalability, and we can actually have uh, transaction tests, like how many transactions per hour it is managing. So different kinds of tests which will be done to actually make the sizing of the instances are enough to manage it. Okay. And there is there is a calculation, how many computers required for author environment. You see this number of parallel authors by 30 will give number of CPUs required for author environment. Okay, this is by after testing multiple times, they came to know that this way it is actually better for multiple authors. Concurrent requests coming into AEM, authors will still show good performance, will not actually degrade or anything like that. Okay, so I'm sharing this document. Just in case if it is not cloud, we need to provide them the sizing guidelines. Okay, we need to calculate based on the requirement this sizing guideline, and for author and for publish the sizing guidelines are different, because in case of author it is a most of them are post, because we are submitting the data, editing the data, all of them. But in case of publish, most of the live users, it is content is actually for requesting purposes, and dispatcher will provide all of them. And based on the cache ratio, number of peak pages and million pages per day, how much is the caching efficiency it will be served is mentioned here. Okay, on the publish environment. Okay, so which one is actually having implementation related to cache ratio? How much is the cache ratio of the pages, peak pages, million pages per day? Based on these conditions, like suppose out of the 100% of the content is cacheable, like there is no much of editing options which we are providing on the website. Okay, then how many pages as a peak we can actually serve from that number of publishers which we have created is 1000 to 2000 at a time. Okay, and as a whole per day, how many million pages it can actually serve is 35 to 70 million pages if you can manage 100% cache ratio. Okay, so basically, we just will need to understand in the data which he is providing, we need to identify the cache ratio. So how frequently they are updating the assets? We need to ask the client. Okay, so you are saying these are all the models and everything. How frequently they will be updated? So he will say, since it's a car brand, uh, they are all the previous year models. So once we have mentioned whatever is released in that year, we will not be changing it anything, right? Like it is just like once author, it is forever the same. A car of ZX variation with a red color, which is released in 1992. If you want to show on the website, whatever is there, that will be shown, right? It is not again being othered the next day because red color car at that year is looking different. No, right? Because whatever the exact look you need to finalize, then only you will upload. Okay, so such websites will have high cache ratio because whatever is once authored is not changed much. Okay, but certain websites will have cache ratio very less. Suppose let's take a website, would say news website. And in India, we have a news website which is on AEM author, which is Malayalam Manorama. So if you say Malayalam Manorama as a news website which is on AEM, and if you take how many authoring requests concurrently will be happening, at least 100 concurrent AEM author updates will be happening at any point of time, because across Kerala they actually have journalists in each and every uh, tier 3 2 kind of towns. Okay, and tier 1 also they have a lot of journalists, and all of these journalists would like to have access to author environments. And once they have access to author environments, they would actually will be writing the news for every 10 minutes, whatever the news is there within that entire region which they have been allocated. They are actually responsible for providing the authoring aspect of the news article. Okay, since they're continuously updating, the amount of cache which you would be doing as a percentage of the content will be very less. Okay, since when it is very less, as a concurrent pages for the capacity of the publisher RAM and hardware, you can only serve 100. If you see 0%, it is 100. Okay, at that hardware sizing, concurrently you can serve 100 pages only from the publish. Okay, and per day at a time 100 pages. Okay, and per day as an overall you can serve 3.5 million pages only from the AEM publish instance, because cache ratio is almost zero, because you are continuously adding the content. Is this clear? Any questions on this?
I really didn't get that. Why it would be only 100 pages if the cache ratio is 0%? It could be, any pages can be right.
No, no. It is. It doesn't mean how many of the existing pages it will be able. Number of concurrent page capacity, like at a time, max of 100 pages of any of the 100. It's not that only these 100 or that. So you have a news article 6,000 pages. Okay, out of 6,000 pages, concurrent requests like 100 viewers accessing 100 different pages, it can sustain. If you see more than 100 viewers actually trying to access more than 100 pages, the performance will be hit.
You mean the publish instance?
Yeah.
100 concurrent requests.
Yes.
Does that mean the publish can handle only 100 concurrent requests?
For this hardware size, which they have mentioned.
Okay.
Okay. And since the cache ratio is zero. And per day, how many total, how many pages it can serve is the number of million pages. Is this clear?
Yeah, one question is Malayalam Manorama, is it a newspaper
Yeah.
or is it a magazine? What is that?
It has a paid magazine and it has a online free news channel.
Okay. So, I'm thinking that so for a day, probably when the news are like flashing or whatever it is, and there is like a daily change. I mean, not daily. I mean, frequent changes are there. So, cache is something not feasible, right? But I'm talking about like the before whatever contents are there, those will always be like safe, right, or cached.
Right,
Because
but
now
I
those things won't.
understand how many of we read yesterday's news on today.
Not news. I mean, news. That's what I mean. Because we ideally we see that some other newspaper they have like collect. So that's what I'm telling. On a daily basis, we require those caching should not implement, but rest all the previous days news or whatever things are there where we are storing, all those should be like cached, right?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely. All of them will be cached.
that's how it is.
We will have a this thing, some event listener or something which will listen or not listen. We'll write a scheduler which will verify all the news date created, and if it is compared to today's date more than 24 hours, it can get all those page paths, and then it can actually inform dispatcher to be having cached, like
Right. So I meant to say like on a daily basis that if that requirement we take it like so it should come under somewhere like what are the categories we were talking, right? Number of pages.
Hmm.
So it should be some. It's not definitely 0%. I mean,
Yeah.
0% could be like a daily. I understand, but
Yeah, it will be around 35, 40, 50, something like that.
okay. So here my question was like, what consideration we should provide to Malayalam Manorama?
So
I mean, if
first thing, if you see, this is all authoring. See how good the website is. This is on AEM. Okay. And for premium, you have separate premium on this thing. Okay. Doesn't look like a news site, right? It looks like an experience site.
a lot of content, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And a lot of categories. Even Google News is not this good looking. Okay. And then the footer is there, and then the app is there, and then the section, the social icons is there.
So at least header and footer seems static. All nothing dynamism.
Yeah. Yeah, that will be mostly static only. So see, you see AEM Chrome plugin they have used.
Mm.
Okay. So basically, yeah, we will suggest, since you need high throughput for concurrent authoring. For that we have a question already, right? That we can use MongoDB as high throughput instead of tar, because for single instance tar MK works well, but when there is a lot of concurrent push as a data, if we can have clustered MongoDB as the authoring interface, it can take high amount of throughput as input, and then it can actually push them to the publish.
Mm.
Okay, any other questions? So first, as a client requirement, we need to understand the content which is being delivered by the client requirement. How much of them is cache? How much of them is non-cacheable? Okay, based on the cache ratio, we have an understanding of peak concurrent pages which we can actually be able to perform for a certain hardware sizing. Okay, and based on the peak concurrent request for that certain hardware sizing, and based on the cache ratio, if we see the cache ratio is more, okay, we don't need to improve the hardware. But if you see the cache ratio is getting decreased and the hardware is same and the concurrent requests are actually increasing, then we need to have a backup plan which would actually provide increase in hardware sizing, which will help to get the required speed for the number of concurrent requests which are coming to the publish instance. But this is not on cloud, first thing. Okay, this is non-cloud. AEM as cloud service, non cloud based AEM hostings below cloud service versions, because you don't need to do sizing for a cloud instance. Okay. Any other questions?
This above formula was divided by 30 actually. What is that 30? I didn't get that. That n equal to, yeah, number of parallel divided by 30.
So they have come to that number 30 based on certain requirement, I think. As far as
Is it per month basis something?
I think so, monthly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Monthly 30 days per day, number of parallel authors, kind of.
Okay.
Okay. So once we identify the um, cache ratio for the Lexus, we can understand that it is mostly high cache ratio, above 60-70%. So we will have these many users and these many um, pages that can be concurrently be accessed, and we know that the hardware sizing needed is this much. So we can tell that we are expecting this many concurrent requests and we are expecting this many pages which will be accessed, and we are seeing this much cache ratio because as per the requirement, I think we will have, as you said, 30 years, and then we'll do a calculation, and then we will also know different uh, designs which he will be providing for the website from Creative Studio already, right? That the different variations of the pages which will be there as part of the website experience. We will get to know the pages and cache ratio, and then accordingly we will tell the client we are expecting this much hardware sizing as a solution architect, that to have non performance based issues. Okay. And then once we actually provide the sizing, then we need to understand when he says there are how many of the total, it will be like 7,000 total combinations we have got, like year and model and variation uh, and uh, colors of that variation, each variation. So four combinations, like suppose 30 years into uh, cross, you have 20 models of last 30 years you have released, 30 into 20, and you have at least each model have six variation, uh, and that is six. It will be like 600 into 3, like 1800, and then you have six colors, something like that, which means that you have 10,000 different combinations of the data which needs to be stored. Okay. And what client would expect us is to provide him some option where all of this will be stored in AEM, and whenever what is the client requirement, it will be when someone comes, he can actually from the models and years he will be selecting which year, which model, which color, and then he wants to see. Okay, that selection of the filtering is actually what it is, kind of a search criteria, right? So of this 10k variations, we have to perform a search operation and fetch one variation, and that variation will be displayed on the page when he search a model. Okay. If you keep 10,000 pages which are not actually authored, right? I mean, they are once authored but they will not be regularly updated, right? That is not actually a change in content. So such kind of data storage, what feature of AEM we will be using, as a solution architect, we need to provide the client the option. Okay. So I just ask you guys this question. In this scenario where we have 10,000 different one-time authoring um, content, okay, which actually has to be filtered when someone comes and search, and a particular model variation comes, that data we will be using to update the page, meaning the page components will be updated. It is not just server side request, it's a client side request. So how do you store these 10,000 different variations? As what feature you will use? You will create pages, or you will use experience fragments, or you will use content fragments.
So, we'll be using experience fragment because, like, with a party and different kind of variation, we'll be storing like a page,
Yeah.
not as a DAM assets.
And actually here, the page is different and the author data for the variation is different, okay, because
Mm-hmm.
if it is a page, we are storing not just the experience, we are storing, I mean, not just the data related to the model, we are storing a combination of experiences, right? But what I'm talking about is just the um, year 1999, Innova, LX, what is the color image, what is the this thing only we are saving.
So I think we should have a service, right, that should provide these data.
But
We should be calling and yeah.
but that needs to be authorable. But if you have it as a service, in that service side, who is authoring that?
No, I would think
I
a
mean,
content fragment for each of the models, so that we can use the asset API or the GraphQL API to get the content and populate. Because, like you mentioned, everything data is the only thing going to change, right? Not the page structure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I would think one content fragment for each model or the variations of the cars
Yeah.
can be created, and an asset API or a GraphQL API can be used to fetch the data and display it in the page.
Yeah. So that is what they are actually doing right now on the Lexus site. All of them are stored as a content fragment asset, and when somebody searches it, they are using GraphQL query to search that content fragment, and then all the data which is coming as a JSON, that data they are giving it to the search results page, and while the search results page get that the search results component get that JSON data, it is preparing the links and everything, and once clicking on that link, the corresponding asset images and everything will be loaded.
So
so
in
there
this
would be
case,
dynamic.
those days. Sorry, Navin, go on.
Please, Saruza. Okay, you have some thoughts. Yeah.
No, I was just thinking this approach is fine, but how are they going to use the caching benefit of this? Will the JSON data be cached?
Yeah, exactly. So all the content fragment path JSONs once accessed, first time they'll not be cached, but rest time onwards it will be cached because it's not frequently authored. When they change it for any mistakes which they have done, that time it will be flushing that.
So there would be some dynamic data also. Like for example, the pricing and all, and it's not like 1 year is passed on. So if you talk about, there are certain different data that would be dynamic, that could be changed.
Definitely, definitely. If the
Pricing, yeah.
client says, "I'm actually having dynamic data in the model which I'm authoring," then if the cache ratio will be down, you understand?
Mhm.
And when the cache ratio is down, it is a different scenario again.
Yeah.
But normally prices are not authorable, okay, and they come from a e-commerce platform or something, okay, that can be directly called from the page to append to the static content.
Mm.
So in this static kind of variation, we will have the entire variation as mostly static, not changing.
Okay, so considering this scenario where we have not very frequent when data changes. Maybe like 90% data is static, and if we have a certain requirement, we can kindly means kind of go ahead with the content fragment uh, model, you can say,
Yeah.
using GraphQL.
Yeah.
That could be the best suited. Okay.
Yeah. And then we will do a POC and then show that, see, I have taken 10 model variations and this is the results page and I'm getting the data like this. Are you okay with this?
Mhm.
Okay. So that is what we actually do as part of sizing, and based on the requirement of the client, how we are actually storing the data, what is the static part, what is the dynamic part, and how much is the cache ratio, and accordingly we can tell them that how much is what we would like to provide as infrastructure. Okay. So we'll take a small break here. In 15 minutes, we'll connect back and then we'll discuss next considerations as part of architectural solution providing for client. Okay. Hope that's okay with everyone.
Yep, sure.
Yep, sure.
బ్రేక్ కదా, ట్రైనింగ్ బ్రేక్ కదా. Welcome back, everyone. So, we will start the next set of questions which we will ask the client as part of getting the requirements. Okay. Uh, till now, we know that client wanted to have an experience website which is to display all the variations of the vehicles, and he wants to have an authorable option for authoring them, and he wants anyone who comes to the website to check the variation and click on that model. The page will update with that model data. Here, when we are actually updating the model data, we are not refreshing the page. You understand? I'll show the website. Hope all of you can see the website loading on my desktop.
Yes.
Suppose if you select any specific one, all the content behind is changing. Okay, I selected RH changed and corresponding variations changed. Okay, let's say I suppose refreshed. Do you think the page?
No, the URL remains same.
Yeah, right. I am clicking RX. What happened? RX is updated. RX image came and RX variations came. If I select, the car color will change. If I select this, the car color will change. But do you see anywhere the entire data we are loading from server? So client will say kind of this requirement. So I will have my corresponding variation loaded on the page. Okay, and all the colors of that vehicle will be shown on the same page, and user selects any of the color, automatically the car should or the vehicle color should without actually taking time. Immediately it should display. When he thinks that the experience is changing. Okay, so such kind of requirement the client will say. Okay, so this will give us an insight. How do we implement once we got the content fragment GraphQL data after searching the corresponding vehicle? How do we actually append that JSON with the existing HTML DOM without actually refreshing the page? So, what kind of architecture would you think would help in this? AEM sites or AEM headless CMS, SPA? Which one?
Usually, some uh, Ajax servlet or something might be called based on selector extension stuff. Or
So, again, if you are like, how many are there here? At least 40 are there. And each
Mhm.
40, you have how many variations? At least 10. 400 Ajax calls you will do when you want to do this uh, thing, like just checking.
No, it's not. That's what it's not visible to do.
So, what
Maybe
is
depends on.
headless CMS? What is SPA? What is sites architecture? Sites is you will have sightly HTML, which will load the data from Sling model. Okay, any change will actually go to a corresponding request Sling model, and that will fetch the data and page, right? And
So in this case, there would be a page refresh
there,
in this scenario.
there
The
is no
sites
there is no page reference, right?
page refresh.
There is no page refresh here. You see that I'm selecting the vehicle, automatically they are changing the.
No. I'm talking about the sites what you're explaining. If
In
we
that
go with
case, yeah,
that
page,
approach, there would be a page
yeah,
that we
page,
don't need.
exactly, page re-rendering. Yes, that is not we are using. So, and what is single page application? Single page application, you get all the data on the first load, and whatever the data which you wanted to manipulate from that JSON, you get the data based on the clicks, and then update the existing experience only, right? Are you are,
Yes.
are you clear about that single page application behavior which we have seen already with map to plugin and all?
Yeah.
Okay, it just takes the clicks, and based on the click it filters the JSON, and corresponding images data it will fetch, and corresponding thing it will update in the HTML DOM only. There is no refresh or anything. You are sure about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what is headless CMS? In headless CMS, the hosting of the page is not at all on the AEM. AEM exports the data. Someone else hosts that. Okay. But here we are hosting the HTML on AEM only, because Lexus.com domain is mapped to the AEM, and client says I wanted to host it on AEM. I don't need hosting for the website or the server, and I want it on AEM, but it will be updated on the clicks without actually refreshing. So, which of these three, which you think will be a good solution for the architecture?
SPA.
Yeah, so SPA is a perfect suit for this implementation, because in SPA, the entire vehicle data, uh, whichever we wanted to load on the first load, we can load. And once we have them loaded, available, we can write the React components in such a manner that it hits the JSON, filters it based on the selection, and filtered data will be used as a rendering on the DOM manipulation. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So then we will be clear that we will be using content fragments in this solution architecture, and also we will be creating a single page application. Okay. And we also need to know what all other things he wants to display, like any news articles, any events, and any locations. Okay, apart from displaying the main vehicle and model, any other pages which you wanted to display. So he will then say, I wanted to display all the latest models at one location. So he will give independent multiple requirements. After we understood we are going to implement SPA, he will share the components. Yeah. So yeah, sorry for the noise. So actually, um, we need to know how many pages the website is going to have. Okay, we need to know what all the components. Okay, and based on the number of pages and components, we will identify the templates. Okay, so then it comes to the low level design. Okay, at a high level, we understood it is AM cloud or non AM cloud, and then we understand whether it is what could be the sizing of the hardware based on the authoring and cache ratio. Okay, and then once we know authoring sizing and cache ratio, uh, implementation side, we understood what kind of feature of AEM we can use. And then finally the archetype, what kind of archetype which we need to use to create the application. So now we at least got some idea that how many, then we come to how many different pages, how many different components based on the individual requirement, which I wanted the latest articles. And how do latest articles? It should be continuously showing the latest data. That is individual functional requirement component. Architectural level design is different and functional requirement is different, okay, of a small component. So that is we will get once we talk to him more and more about each of the feature which he wants to have on the website. Okay, now the main feature decided that we will be using content fragments for storing the rarely changed data of the vehicles, and we will be using single page application to show the DOM manipulation based on the user clicks without refreshing the page. Now we will ask the client each and independent component and number of pages. Accordingly, we will create templates. Okay, so now we have got kind of main understanding of the a single website like Lexus North America English. We have got what should be displayed on the website, how many pages, how many templates, how we will be storing the data, how we will be retrieving the data, and what kind of architecture we'll be using. Is this clear? Any other questions?
So is not like phase by phase you are telling, like I mean that is something all at once we would have to decide, right? Like for example, this is one of the thing, like lot many vehicle data are there, plus if article things are there, plus there might be some other requirements. So it's all together we need to understand, like SPO is best suited, or what other things will be best suited, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. I
the
understand
phase
that.
by
Yeah. Why I have mentioned SPA first, because the main entire experience of the multiple components which we are displaying is understood by that time.
hmm,
Then we decided it's SPA. Okay. Definitely, we will need to know all the components which we have, how are they behaving. Then only we will identify. If it is most of them SPA, then we'll identify it's SPA.
yeah.
So, the previous sessions and this discussion, what I understand is, like if an application is an SPA, it's going to be standalone SPA application. It cannot be, for example, an AEM website cannot have few pages as an SPA and rest of the thing as a traditional AEM pages, right? That's not possible, is it?
Sorry, could you repeat it?
Can a AEM website, a traditional AEM website, can have few of the pages as SPA architecture, SPA pages, the pages as normal pages?
Yeah,
Is
that
that
is called
possible?
hybrid.
Mhm. But the other day when you were explaining an SPA application, right? I think Shika was doing the demo. We had a separate set of modules, right?
Right.
That were not having the normal core config and those kind of structure. So how these two can combine?
I'll tell you. In case of plain AEM sites, you will have core, apps, content, and config. Okay. In case of single page application, you will have core, apps, content, config, and one more front end.
Mhm.
Okay. And whatever you wanted to have as a sightly HTML rendered, you can have it in UI apps as sightly component, right? And
Yeah.
whatever you wanted to load it from the React, you will have it a mapping of AEM component without sightly HTML, with having Sling model, and React actually writing the HTML from the React side after getting the JSON properties from the Sling.
Got it. Okay.
Independently they work. There is nothing like, the flow is actually interrupted, right?
Got it.
That's where it is a hybrid, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a hybrid.
Headless.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Any other question? So, architectural definition and understanding is not just a 1 day, 2 day work, Naveen. It is at least discovery phase will be at least 1 month.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And in the discovery phase, there is a business analyst, product owner, and technical architect who will understand the entire functional understanding first.
Right.
And sample, mapping of the flow also will be presented by the product owner. Like here he will come, here it displays like this and all. It is not even Figma, but just a flow chart.
Right.
Okay,
Data flow.
data flow. Based on that, we understand how the screens could be also, and then we understand how the experience has to be updated also, and we can understand how many different variations of the components are there, which component is slightly driven, which component is react driven, and then we will identify how many of the templates has needed, because in this flow he has mentioned these many components. One few of them are html driven, few of them are this, and do we need to create a template variation, or this template only will be an suffice when we actually change the policy of the template by removing one component or adding one more component. Okay, and then once we know that, we can actually since we know this architecture, we will understand how many pages it is coming to, and then as part of business flow we'll understand normally how many users they are expecting based on their previous statistics on any other website which they have. And based on that we would identify, if it is a cloud, we don't need to tell them any sizing. We will tell, since the cache ratio I'm expecting around this much, and this is the Adobe recommendation, we do go ahead with this much sizing. So on premise, let's have this much sizing in production, and also similar in stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we will have corresponding code structure created with a POC, where using the corresponding Maven archetype we will create at least home pages, and then see few components, let just as a POC.
Yeah.
To get from discovery phase to the story writing phase, we will do that. Okay,
Yeah.
and once we know what data is being defined and what data is being identified, then we need to know, uh, we wanted to provide login for the users, or is there all the content is public, or certain content we wanted to show for certain users. These are like kind of apart from functional, but also not non-functional, but I would say um, environment related kind of segmentation, all these intelligence, extra kind of maintenance and security, all those aspects kind of, we need to ask them, uh, do you want to provide a login functionality for the application, because you have certain requirement as part of the flow in itself. You're telling logged in users will see specific car which he has purchased, because we are providing login access to those users who are actually purchased our cars. And since they have purchased, we will show a different some internal information also related to the brand, which is not available for the public users. And then since they have mentioned login functionality, we would like to know who will be providing the identity management. We will ask them where you wanted to keep the username and password. And since it is actually live users we will not keep in AEM. We know, right? We have actually gone through that, because AEM authors, reviewers, approvers will be in AEM. The live users, if they are, because the number of size of users and the kind of authorization authentication, we need to have a separate identity management systems. Okay, and do you identified any identity management system to host your live users? Okay, he says no. Okay, could you actually speak to your IT team to inform if there are any identity management systems which are actually the brand is using, which can be used in our experience. And if they connect with the IT team, then the identity management team will come and we will ask them, can you actually let us know what identity management system you are using, what protocols you are actually for authentication for third party systems. And we have an Adobe Experience Manager based website which we are building, which supports SAML2, OAuth2, and also JWT, and also generic SSO, all of these options. Which one you wanted to use it, since we are expecting these many logged in users concurrently, and we will be actually having the redirection done to AEM. Okay, he will mention this is the SAML, and then we will ask the details, and then in our POC we will write a POC spike story, which will be authentication verification. Okay, so as part of the business flow discussions with the business analyst, we will understand if the website's having login, or if the website's having a user generated content also. If it is a user generated content, how much of the user generated content we are actually expecting, and how do we calculate it? So we will ask the product team if they have any previously expected metrics on the user generated content, and how much short duration, what seasonal. Okay, and how do we store the user generated content in the cloud, and that is scalable and all, because keeping user generated content in am is not at all suggested. And if it is Azure or AWS, or which vendor you are comfortable, and corresponding vendor, what is the integration aspect with the AEM which we can actually suggest. The integration aspect will be either blob storage, or having an identity management integration with that user generated content also has to be integrated, and with AEM also it has to be integrated. Is this clear what I was trying to convey?
Yeah.
Okay, and these are something which is outside AEM features, which AEM supports for integration. There is inside AEM, we have workflows, we have schedulers, we have event listeners, we have event handlers. So is he actually asking to load the images from certain location to AEM regularly? Okay, that will give a scheduler. And he wants to have once a author is actually authored the pages which are AEM driven. Okay, and submitted, or React driven submitted, he wants to have any this thing kind of approval process. Who is the user who will be approving? How do you want them to be notified, and where do you want to store those users? Okay, because content approval process will be there for every application AEM, so we will ask you IAM. And user permissions we will ask. These are the two things which we will ask for the security and integrity of the data. Okay, and then we will actually have understanding related to I would say yeah, now we will actually have to provide best practices also, kind of we will ask out of the design which will be the better option. Okay, so we we will actually get to know more and more as we have discussion. Ashni sound dagichwa. Okay, so functional requirements is the main criteria. We will come to the non-functional requirements again, but the functional requirements. And in functional requirements, workflows are functional requirements. Schedulers, event listeners are functional requirements. Even authentication also kind of functional, because we can't actually afford to have um, multiple people accessing an unwanted information which is related to brand, right? And we will have to create spikes, or any research stories for all these integrations. One is SPA POC, okay. Another one is POC related to login. Another one is POC related to content fragments verification, and then loading on the page. Okay, and uh, we need to have understanding related to integrations, like we need to ask them, you are actually having any requirement to export the data, the user click data, or any targeting data and all, we need to ask them. If it is there, we need to write few more lines of code on the AEM side. Suppose if it is analytics where we have to export the user click data, we need to create a data layer. And what is data layer? It is a page related information exported as JSON, which is actually updated whenever we are navigating the pages. And if you include the Adobe Analytics scripts in the header.html, they capture this information and post it to Analytics dashboard. Okay, so I mean, as part of the other smart tools, value driven tools which are integrated for them, we just need to ask once we are clear about as part of AEM root implementation, then security, then integrations. Okay, anything else you think we will need to know from the client?
I think it's about data part. Like sometime like we might have from where the data is coming or how we are storing the data. Are we dependent on any services or something? So some prerequisites must be there. Like we need to implement those services, and that services we might be consuming or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially in the data heavy stuff.
yeah,
Where in the vehicle data, but I feel it's a kind of a thing where definitely they might be using such scenarios.
definitely, yeah. Because as part of the discussion of the functional flow, we will be having question related what data is authored, what data is actually available from a different APIs. And if the data is authored and all, we will take care through AEM. And if the data is actually has been available as a service for us, we need to know which services, what authentication mechanisms, and what integrations which we have. And that data mostly is not authorable, because whatever is authorable changing is why AEM is there in the first place. And those non-authorable dynamic data which is coming from third-party systems, it could be e-commerce, it could be REST service, it could be a Spring Boot microservice, anything. How do we consume? What is the data exchange platform? Is it a JSON or XML? Okay, if it is a JSON, we will actually have corresponding AEM consuming the JSON corresponding code written. If it is an XML, we will have corresponding XML SAX parsers, and then accordingly we can have that implementation.
So this use case is like when we are going to basically develop a fresh site or something like that. If it is a means a migration site, the scenario would be different basically, where we might be mitigating with some different existing challenges for them with the page loading stuff or something, and we are trying to design with the new way which can be means best possible way for them. So those scenario would be different in case of migration projects.
Yeah, definitely. Because
Where
because migration is different, and then having it as a fresh site is different. Because migration, it will be data migration from one system to another system, and they will need to have migration strategy, how the content has to be migrated, delta has to be defined, and how frequent that will be updated when the sunsetting of the old system happens. Is it one time, or kind of phase by phase, where I have to move the delta also, and then we will slowly include redirections to AEM, and few pages redirection to any other older version, or different CMS for a different URL. Okay. In case of migration, you can do URL by URL also migration, because you don't want to change the existing experience on the old side, and you wanted just the data to be moved to AEM, and the entire front end experience is same. So you can actually target page by page.
Page by page wouldn't be challenging. I mean, I'm
Page by
considering if
page
they're
meaning,
like
suppose this vehicle page is there. Okay, what are all the components in the vehicles page? Okay, and in these components, the corresponding old CMS, or the this thing, we will identify the mapping of that data and this data, and then once all of this is migrated, we will try to check in AEM how it is coming. So that's what I mean by page by page.
yeah. And how important is the like this atomic molecular structure in case of
That
uh,
is front end only, experience driven.
uh,
Because of the
no
responsiveness, they have included atomic molecule for CSS and experience.
when it's atomic molecular means I'm talking about the reusable components ideally, like those image, text, title stuff, right?
Huh.
So
Yeah, I mean, that is up to our experience, since we have actually explored multiple core components, whether some component can fit into the existing scenario, or the reusability is actually introducing more overhead. But definitely, if you use components, the responsive implementation, and the exporters, all of them are out of the box available, which we don't need to write if we are creating a custom component.
yeah,
Okay, and there is always this criteria: use as many less templates as possible. Even the components also, make them as much reusable as possible. Okay, you cannot create template for every small variation. You just need to update the policies, and then
thanks.
yeah. So I have clicked sign in here. Okay, it shows sign in. Now the URL is changed. You see, now the entire page is loading, and it is taking to a login page. Okay, you can actually get these credentials, uh, either through social media you can log in, or get these credentials from the um, purchase. Once you purchase the vehicle, they'll share some details which you can actually use to create, register, activate account. Okay, here if you see, the domain itself is changed from lexus.com to account.lexus.com. It went. Okay, so this is hosted by some SSO vendor, who is identity provider, who is actually taking the details, authenticate, and then once authentication happens, it will automatically redirect to the corresponding AEM page, and that configuration will be in the backend in the system console config manager as a renderer, I mean redirect URL.
How this login is the session is maintained between two different accounts. You know, accounts, just two different domains, meaning Lexus.com and accounts.lexus.com are two different domains. Right? The user is logging in here.
Hmm. So as part of the request headers,
Is written in the other domain.
yeah, I'll tell you. So this domain will be in the dispatcher allowed hosts for the AEM, lexus.com.
Okay.
Okay. And once the request is coming from this, dispatcher will allow the request. Okay. And in the request header, it will check for a HTTP cookie. Okay.
Okay.
You can go to sources.
No, but this request will not come to dispatcher, right? This is a different domain altogether.
Yeah. After sign in, it will send the request back to AEM side, right?
Yeah.
That will come to the dispatcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there it will actually identify that. Okay. And the integration is happening based on the authentication handler, which is within the AEM, where we will be mentioning the client ID, secret ID, and also incoming request referrer. And the referrer is this one. Okay, there will be cookie once you sign in, and that is available for the dispatcher to validate the cookie, and then dispatcher, then only it will move to publisher. Is this clear?
So, Venu, if the scenario is that we want to develop this login, bring in a login component in AM, then how do we do that? I mean, this
No,
is like
then
redirecting.
yeah, then it will be directly within AM. You'll have user and password that will be verified automatically. And
Is that recommended nowadays?
no, that
Like,
is not recommended because live users will not store in the AEM.
so in case client comes with this kind of requirement, we have to suggest them
Yes,
that is not
exactly.
recommended.
That is not recommended because since these many users trying to get, it's a user generated content. AEM is specifically for the content authoring from the brand side. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah.
Any other question? Okay, so this is how we can actually understand the login mechanisms and all. Then, as part of dispatch configuration, we verified how we can actually mention the security redirects and everything. And then the next class will consider the non-functional requirements, what to ask from the client. Okay. So we'll take a small break. We'll come back. After that, we'll discuss the non-functional requirements, and then we will go through one by one. Okay. We'll take a 15-minute break. Sure. Please go on.
అమ్మ డాడీకి బ్రేక్ఫాస్ట్ పెట్టి మనం me, ఇక పై only you and me. Me, 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 me. ఎక్కడ ఏమి దోశ పోస్తున్నా దోశ పోస్తున్నా నువ్వు పోస్తావా నీకేం కావాలి క్యారెట్ కావాలా Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Mama. 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 Rachel నేర్పిందా మామా
కొంచెం మందంగా ఉంటారు కదా అశ్విని బీట్రూట్ తో చేసింది. I mean, I can see that beetroot under my feet. Taste. హెవీగా ఉంది కదా.
సిజర్సా నీకు అన్నీ తెలుసు ఏది తీసుకోకూడదు అది తీసుకోవటం తెలివి ఎక్కువ చూస్తాను చూడు ఓన్లీ టొమాటో ఇక్కడ పడేసావా మీరే ಏನమ్మಾ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಬೊಮ್ಮರು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ತಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಅದು ಈಗ ಪಾಠ చూడు గోల్డి గోల్డి బంగారు కొట్టాలని మీరు మిల్క్ ప్యాకెట్ ఎవరు తెచ్చిస్తారు
ఆర్డర్ పెడదామా ఆర్డర్ పెడదామా
ఏం కావాలి మోనా ఏం అర్థం కాలేదురా ఆడవాళ్ళకి ₹10 కానీ ₹30 ఏంటి నీకు కావాలా ఏంటంటే నాకే అర్థం వాట్ ఇదిగో వద్దు
నేను చేయలేదే
ఏదమ్మా చెప్పు
లేచిందా ఊరినే ఏదో కావాలని ఏడుస్తుంది. ఆ కత్తెరలు అట్లాంటివి కావాలి ఆమెకి. అందుకే మేము తీస్తుంటే ఇంకా లాగుతుంది. ఇచ్చాడు అది చైను. అదే అది చాలు. చెప్పాడు ఎట్లా పెట్టాలి ఏందో. తాడు కట్టాడా? ఆ తాడు పట్టుకొని ఇంక తిప్పండి. దాన్ని పోస్తే మంచిది మా, ఎందుకంటే మురికి లేకుండా ఉంటది, ప్లస్ దానికి బాగుంటది కుక్క హెల్తీగా. నువ్వు అంట్లు కడిగేటప్పుడు దాన్ని ఒక ఉతుకు. అది
డబ్బులు అంచనా చేయమంటావా?
4 లక్షలా? నాకేంటి, నేను కొడతాగా ఆయనకి. ఎందుకంటే 10 లక్షలు నేను ఇచ్చినట్టే ఉంటది ఆయనకి. అంతే అంతే అంతే. దొరకలేదంటున్నాడు మరి, మనుషులు కలుపుతానులే, ఫోన్ చేసి అడుగుతా. తొంభై 98 గ్యారంటీ అంటలేమా? 98 అయిపోయింది. ఈ రోజుకి 98 గ్యారంటీ. ఇంకేమన్నా మారని. చూడు, మొన్నటిదాకా వాళ్ళని తెగదిచ్చాడు, ఇప్పుడు 10 ఏళ్ళు అంటున్నాడు. వాడు ఏదైనా మాట్లాడతాడు ఇప్పుడు, ఎట్టయినా వాడు రావాలి. అంతే కదా, ఏదో ఆశ ఉంటది కదమ్మా. రుణమాఫీ ఆశ ఇది ఉంటది. జగన్ 11 ఏళ్ళు అంటాడు, దెబ్బకి అయిపోద్ది. 10,000కి పెంచుకుంటూ పోతామంటాడు. లేదు మా, సరే నేను ఉంటా, నాకు కాల్ ఉంది. Welcome back. So we'll cover the non-functional requirements which we need to ask the client as part of the whole idea of the implementation. Okay, the first non-functional requirement which we need to cover is page load speed. Okay, and page load speed, a good website page load speed is 3 to 6 seconds. Okay, above 6 is actually not very good. So we have to understand from the client, does he has any non-functional requirement and specifically related to speed, and is it how much? Okay, because in SPA first load is little slower always. Okay,
Venu, this benchmark, what you're saying is 3 to 6 seconds. Is it documented somewhere?
Yeah, it is documented
in Adobe. Can you please share that?
Yeah, not in Adobe, but any website. It is not, page speed is not related to Okay, so you see most of them are 5.1 to 6.8 seconds, and that is industry wise also: media, retail, technology, travel, financial, healthcare, packaged goods, automotive. Okay, and as part of industry analysis, page load time grows from 1 seconds to 3 seconds. The likelihood of bounce increases by 32. Okay, so this is the document which says the typical good standard for the page load. Okay, and you see here max 6 seconds what they are on an average. Retail websites take 6 seconds to load, and everything else is also less than that. You can test any page speed by having multiple tools, and Pingdom is one of them. Let's say Lexus.com. You want to test from North America, right? Because North American users only will be using the website. If you test from India, it is a different result, and if you test from North America, it is a different result. I'm just clicking start test. So you get all the data analysis from the multiple tools which are available. Okay. Uh, the page size is 3.3 MB, and it is giving a performance grade of A because 96 is actually it what it took. So it is loading pretty quick because I think they have cached the home JSON itself, and it is not even going to basically the publish. If it goes to publish, at least that will take 5 to 6 seconds. It is less than 2 seconds it is taking, because even the first load itself is already cached on the dispatcher. It is directly served from kind of static web server. Like that it is actually happening, though they will say SPA first load is actually kind of pretty late and all, right? But first load for whom? First load for the first time who is actually accessing. But production, once it is live, the tester, I mean the same themselves itself, they load it first time, and the JSON is cached, and then live uses for everyone it is served from the cache. 309 milliseconds. It's pretty awesome actually. Okay, let's any of your guys website which your client, we can test it. uh, let's take apple.com. So its grade is 77. Okay, load time is 813, which is almost triple the time of Lexus. Okay, and the reasons for the slow speed is 48 is the grade in HTTP request. So the number of HTTP requests for the from the page is actually so many, and that is the reason it is actually slow. And you need to reduce this few HTTP requests to few. Okay, and each of the content size, everything, images taking how much, script taking how much, script font, XSHR, redirect, other, total 100%. And how many requests? 44 requests, right? And 44 requests, how many images you are loading? 16. And JavaScript 11. So if it is possible, combine them into one single file. Then the number of HTTP requests for, but it is actually based on the website. I'm just talking from the performance wise. Okay, page speed is the one thing. So as soon as we move, um, we have local working, we will try to test this on our local itself, how much time it is taking with the client libraries. And with and client always says, I want industry best standard, and best standard is 6 seconds. And if it is less than that, it is good. More than that, it is not good. Okay. And then once we have corresponding implementation related to the page performance because of scripts loading reduction or anything, on the AEM side, we all know there are few things which we can do to improve the performance. One is, all the backend queries we can actually make them indexed. So first we need to see thread dumps, heap dumps, everything from health check report, and then identify on the Java side we are actually having time taken, or on the JCR side the data which is what time taking as part of the query. And we can actually try to have an index created for the JCR related search operations. And that index we can use oak index query definition node type. And under rep oak index, we will create a custom oak index query definition node type and mention the key value properties as the property which you wanted to index. Suppose you are fetching all the articles pages, you are querying for all the articles. Take the sling resource type as the index property which we wanted to use for having indexing done, and that will give an indexes of all the sling resource types, and we can check our resource type within the existing sling resource types. Okay, one thing is we can create a custom Lucene index. I'll show we can create custom Lucene index. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Under oak index, you will create a property index and mention oak index query definition node type. Okay, and then you will mention what is the property which you wanted to index. And then once you save the changes, that will actually work as indexing option. Okay, and we can actually have for full text searches a separate index created, because full text search will happen on the assets, tags, content sites, content fragments, everything, right? For full text asset, how do we can actually put custom indexes which will help improve the performance. Okay, okay, so we can actually mention the corresponding indexes to improve the performance. Another thing is, We all know, right? We can minify CSS and JS in the HTML library manager in the localhost, right? Minification that will actually minify it and then um, load thing. I'll show in HTML library manager there is an option to minify where we can actually enable the checkbox and that will minify the CSS and JS once it is loaded on the browser. This is a premium article. We don't want to have that. There is a console configuration which I'll showcase. In system console config manager, you have see this one HTML library manager OSJ configuration. So this HTML library manager OSJ configuration in system console config manager, we will have minification checkbox, which when we click it, it will minify. And when we unclick it, it will not minify. Just the advantage of minification is the size of the total JS that gets loaded will be reduced. The MB or KB, whichever is the JavaScript which we are loading on the web browser, it will be less if we do minification. Okay. Another thing is after speed and I mean, as part of speed, one is indexing, one is minification, another one is lazy loading. Okay, and lazy loading is basically first you load certain aspects of certain elements of the DOM, and once that is available, you can show the rest of the pages. Okay, if you see certain pages, if you go to apple.com, so you see on the first go something is loaded and then rest of the elements are loaded slowly. Okay, you understood? At least header loaded first time itself without actually others being loaded. See, header loaded and rest are being loaded. And this load, if it is part of the whole load, it will be a performance hit. But suppose let's take Lexus.com. It will load everything once. See, there is no DOM that is displaying, but when it loads everything available. You see that? This is a bad design. But they don't need to worry about because their speed is already good.
What relatively making Apple.com less performant? I mean, is it because of its own font and its own images specific?
Yeah,
I see some if they have provided or something.
probably the number of HTTP requests they are making while the page is loading are almost 44.
Mhm.
So that many requests are causing it slow performance on Apple. And the reason for having to call 44 is because of their own choice of the things which they have used for website. And whether they can compromise or not, we are not sure because of their standards, what they have actually as a specifications, that is a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, all of the fonts, the different, that looks Apple specific. I mean, it's nothing all new actually. The multicolored font.
Yeah. So we need to check how we are loading our DOM. Are we loading everything in one, or are we loading little lazy loading? Like we load certain elements by default, and then rest of them when the visibility is available, then we are loading. So how do we know when the visibility is available or not? We can actually use responsive media queries, which are CSS media queries, where based on the visibility, they get fired the queries, and these queries will actually get the um, call to that image and load it when the visibility comes.
You mean on a scroll effect or something? Or
Not also on scroll. Suppose if you go to apple.com, okay, this pixel size will trigger another media query like this size, this horizontal.
Mhm.
For that media query, this image will load when the media query have fired.
Right. So once we are scrolling down, then only it will try to
Yeah,
the
that is, yes, exactly. That is also another lazy loading. Once the visibility comes in, you load it later.
Mm.
Okay, but for Lexus, it loaded all the time one go itself, right? Like if you see, the images were not loaded initially, and once it loaded. So, using media queries and responsive grids to help uh, have the lazy loading add to the page performance will actually improve the page speed metrics. Okay, and another thing is, normally we all know that CSS should be kept at the top, because to load anything we need CSS. JS should be kept at the bottom, because JS is needed for manipulating the existing DOM. Okay, so that is the another thing which is part of performance improvement uh, measures. We have CSS at top, JS at bottom is the standard for performance improvement. See, yeah, by placing JavaScript at the bottom of the page, the browser can download and render the content and CSS first while the JavaScript is being loaded. That is why we place CSS at the top, JS at the bottom. You guys know about this, right? At least, I mean, as part of your implementation, you might have done this. So these are the another measures which we actually do as part of performance improvement. One is having indexes for the queries, which will improve the performance. Second, minification of CSS and JS. Third, having media queries and responsive grids included to have at least DOM loaded, and then lazy loading happens once we scroll. And fourth one is, you can actually keep any CSS at the top and any JS at the bottom. Is this clear? Any questions?
one thing on the lazy loading, right? By default, I think in SPA we don't have this webpack chunking is there, right? That suppose we are using how we are loading the CSS and JS libraries. It's by default doesn't support that lazy loading things, right?
Yeah, by default it supports through client libraries, where the categories will be having the CSS separate, JS separate, and CSS files will be loaded, JS will be loaded. But whatever you keep as media queries, CSS as part of the HTML, that is what I am talking about.
Okay.
Okay, is this clear?
11 consists. The cricket team has 11 players. 11. 11.
So these things which we need to take care as part of performance. One is page speed. Second is page responsiveness, or I would say page support. Like what web stack our pages has to load. Okay, if we do not know that, we might see some users using some other web stack complaining, I can't see the content properly, and client might come back to us and ask, why haven't you covered this web stack? So basically the kind of web browser stack, the browser stack which we will be supporting, we need to have that clearly defined from the client. The browser stack, Safari, Opera, Chrome, Internet Explorer. So, and what versions also of these browsers. Like last 5 years is, I think, is good enough, but we need to ask the client. We should not actually ignore that. And because we are the technical expert, and client would actually think we will give them input related to anything which they will see as a problem in future. So we should be proactive. It is not just a transaction which we are doing and going away. It is just a value which he wants to get and he wants to pass on to us, because we are giving some value in return. If we don't look like that, the relationship will not last that much longer. Reason being, one or other errors issues comes, and then he might think we are not capable, but we are capable, just that we haven't taken proactive measures to get the data from the client in the initial architecture design itself, right? Like we need to ask what browser stack and what mobile stack would we will be supporting the website. Okay, and we need to suggest him these are the standard browser stack and mobile stack which is actually suggested by the market for any website, and this needs extra this much effort. If you are okay, we will go, and if you are not okay for this extra effort because of the cost, we are fine, we will deliver as it is as part of your browser, because an informed choice hurts less than an uninformed ad hoc thing. I mean, so we need to inform him, and then if the issue comes also, he will be like, yeah, that is my decision, and they have asked me already. That is a clarity. Okay, so we need to ask them the browser stack and all. We will see what browser stack and what mobile stack is latest supported. So there is a tool called Browser Stack which will tell us what are the APIs which are available. I mean, for the different browsers. But this is not exact this thing. I would say exact replica of the live device testing or the stack, but almost everything is covered. Almost 98% is covered. Okay. As part of non-functional requirement, um we get this. Yeah. If you see, iPhone devices we are supporting 14 Pro plus 15 because of the sizes of the devices, pixels, the way they are actually providing new features like foldable devices and all. They will give different renditions, pixel sizes, which will distract our website. And when we haven't implemented responsiveness, which will come as an issue to the client that certain users seeing it as incorrect website. Okay. Okay, so these devices which they are supporting, like on Android, what are the devices they are supporting? In Samsung, in Google, in others. Okay, and in iOS, what are this is browser stack? It is a separate thing, but what I'm talking about is from client we need to know for our devices also. It is like all the back till 2018 they are supporting 6 years back. Only 5 years is enough. Not this much is needed because very few people uses phone for more than 5 years. I mean smartphones because of latest features which are coming in. Okay. So page speed and browser stack, and then we also need to know kind of we by default provide security aspects like a dispatcher providing security, and also implementation of Cloudflare and network switch that is taken care by the infrastructure team, and not Adobe Experience Manager team. But within the AEM for security, we will actually have dispatcher taken care, which we have covered, and users permissions is fine. Uh, Anything else you guys want me to cover? And speed, security, and supported devices. Any other thing?
We have like the search criteria, right? Where we have normally either used the out of the box search features along with like full text filter stuff. We might have some other search features to be implemented. For example, like using Elasticsearch or maybe some AI driven tools, kind of Covio or something, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah,
if
that
you
that actually
like,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm just talking like if so, there are certain criteria. Like I mean, if suppose some product heavy information is there, probably we might go for this Kobe or AI based tool, where like we have lot many complexity in the product and certain AI driven stuff is required. I mean, those criteria when we should suggest to the client like this is the ideal scenario for you and
So that is as part of functional requirements discovery phase. We will see the user I mean requirement, kind of the client asking, I have like 50,000 60,000 images. I wanted to provide an option for the user to show the one second. ఏంటంట
టీవీ ఫోన్ లో చూడాలంట ఇందా ఫోన్ లో చూసిన ఫోన్ మళ్ళీ ఆ మెడకు పోయేటట్టు అక్కడ చూడాలంట అందుకే టీవీ కన్నా పెడుతున్నా అదన్నా చూడని చేసేదా
పెద్దదైపోయింది, అన్ని గోల్ చేస్తుంది.
ఏమో పెద్ద ఏదేసి చిన్న ఏదేసి ఇంకేం అట్లా సంవత్సరానికి ఈ రకంగా అర్థమైతే ఇంకా అది పెట్టి లోపల కూడా మళ్ళీ ఆగలేదు మనిషి. అసలు ఆ బొమ్మ దండకు గంట నిప్పంటి లేక ఎడుతుంటే ఎన్ని బొమ్మలు ఉన్నా వాడిని ముట్టుకోదు. ఏదో కాసేపు తినేటప్పుడు అట్లా చూస్తున్నా ఒక రకం.
సరే నేను లోపలికి వెళ్ళినా, ఇంటి లోపలికి.
నేను అందుకే చూస్తుంది మొదటి నుంచి ఉంటుంది కానీ